I was encouraged by what I saw from the Bears in week one. They do not need him to be Superman. All right, welcome in. It's the Breer Mailbag for week two. We have a full slate of NFL games now to react to. We're on the doorstep of week two here on Thursday night. Week two kicks off in Miami with the Dolphins facing the Bills. That, of course, a very important game last year. These games, the Bills-Dolphins games, actually determined who was playing at home and who was on the road in the playoff. The Bills, of course, get to host the Steelers in the first round in that circumstance. And the Dolphins had to go to Kansas City. And we all know what happened there in frigid conditions. As always, we want you guys to send us your questions. Anything you got, we are willing to answer. We'd love to have you guys send video in too. We did a little bit of that in week one. We're not going to do it this week in week two, but we'd like to do some more going forward. You can get your video questions to us on Twitter, and then also the email address, breersimailbag@gmail.com. Our first question for week two is from Depressed Bears Fan. That's at Dep Bears Fan. How much of Caleb Williams' week one struggles were rookie struggles with versus implementing a new offense with a lot of new pieces? Well, Depressed Bears Fan, I will tell you this. I was encouraged, not discouraged, by what I saw from the Bears in week one. And the reason why is because it showed a team that is ready to take on a rookie quarterback. They do not need him to be Superman for them to win, for them to contend. You saw a lot of the elements of last year's Bears come into play. The defense, Tyreek Stevenson has a huge pick six. They block a punt, return it for a touchdown on the defensive side of the ball or on special teams. They were able to generate points in different ways, and they were able to let Caleb find his way. Now, is it ideal? No, he didn't play great. But it's week one, again, for a rookie quarterback. They're not putting him in a bad situation where he has to win the game all by himself. And I think over time, we're going to see how this is all going to come together. Not only are they giving Caleb Williams time to develop, they're giving the offense under Shane Waldron time to develop. Keenan Allen's new there. Obviously, Rome Odunze's new. They've got the offensive line coming back. DeAndre Swift, also a new piece. Again, like, I love the makeup of the team and where it looks like they're going to be going forward and how the team's set up again to support a rookie quarterback. Question number two. This is from Eric Klein, PhD. That's at Dr. Eric Klein, much more educated than I am. How does this Haason Reddick situation end? Do you think it's conceivable that he never plays a snap for the Jets? Eric, I do not think that's conceivable. And the reason why is because of the logistics of this situation. Now, he's surrendered almost $5 million in fines from all the stuff that he missed in the spring and the summer and into early fall. And now every week he's forfeiting game checks of nearly $800,000 each week. So the question becomes then, what will motivate him to show up? Well, this is all about getting paid for him. And I think one of the nuances to his situation is he never got the big pass rusher contract. So he's been chasing that the last few years. And I think it's been reflected in how he's handled some of these situations. The real leverage point that the Jets have in this situation comes in week 10. On the Tuesday after week 10, I believe that's November the 12th, he has to show up or he does not get credit towards free agency for next year. His contract would toll. What does that mean? That means his 2024 contract, even if he plays the end of the year, would roll over to 2025. So they would have him under contract again in 2025. So if he wanted to hit free agency at the age of 30 in March, he has to show up before then. The other thing that gives the Jets leverage in this situation is their defensive line is really, really good at a baseline. And having guys like Will McDonald, who they drafted in the first round, Jermaine Johnson, who they drafted in the first round, obviously Quinnen Williams, who's a stir that straws the drink for that whole group, gives them the flexibility where they could look at it and legitimately say, we'll be fine for the next 10 weeks. And then if Haason Reddick comes in and he's a little older and has fresh legs, he could add something. So there's actually some benefit to waiting for them. Plus, it's going to cost them a lot less. So I still think, it's unfortunate for Haason Reddick, but I think the leverage is still in the Jets' favor here, and we'll see how it plays out. But it's hard to imagine that he wouldn't be back in before that Tuesday after week 10 in order to make himself eligible for free agency in 2025. Finally, my third question of the week from Elise. That's at AJ Davis 22800. What happens if the Steelers win on Sunday with Fields at the helm? Do they roll with him for the time being, or do they legitimately want to give Russell Wilson a shot? I think a big reason why Fields did not win the job out of training camp is because they felt like if they had to go from Wilson to Fields, that would be a lot easier than the other way around. If they had given Fields the job right off the bat, it may have been too difficult to keep Wilson on the roster. So you see how it goes with Wilson. And then if you have to go to Fields later in the year, you can do it. That gets fouled up by Wilson's calf injury. Now, if you want to go back and look at how Fields played in week 1, he did not set the world on fire, but he carried over a lot of the things that they had seen in training camp and being a guy that they really like to coach. And so if you look at some of the nuances to that game, the way that Justin Fields managed 2-minute situations at the end of the half, at the end of the game, his game management stuff, the way that he was able to run the ball effectively, and also the way that he was playing as he was coached. He was coached, and they were all coached on offense to avoid the middle of the field. They didn't want to throw it at Jesse Bates. If you've seen any of the heat charts, he was throwing it outside the numbers more consistently because that's what they were asking him to do. He carried out the game plan as it was set out for him. And he gave an excellent defense a chance to carry the day, which is what happened. So I think Justin Fields showed that he's a quarterback the Steelers can win with. If he puts together another performance like that, maybe that conversation starts to pick up a little bit in Pittsburgh. As of right now, I think Wilson does get a shot, but I wouldn't rule out the idea that Fields plays really well. That becomes a very real conversation next year for the Steelers. Again, thank you for coming out for this week's mailbag. We're going to continue to grow this in the coming weeks. This is the mailbag for week 2. If you have any video questions for us, you don't have to wait until I put the call out for questions on Twitter next week. You can send those questions on video to @BreerSImailbag@gmail.com. If we like your questions, we'll throw them on here. You'll get your face on there with me. We'll see you next week.